Hey everybody, Riot Mort here with Riot Kent, back for our final patch post-mortem of Gizmos and Gadgets because we don't do it on the last patch. So this is it. This is the final review. Kent, you ready to get this done and over with?
Yeah, this one, it's going to be a fun one. It's not going to be really long, but it's going to be fun because this was the for fun patch. We launched a bunch of crazy big buffs everywhere and the egg. And so it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Now I gotta say, at a high level, if you remember the patch rundown, I was like, if it goes wrong, it's my fault. I take full responsibility. But I think that also means I'm entitled to the opposite, which meant it didn't go that bad. It went pretty well. So I think we take those.
Yeah, actually, for how many big swings here, and it, like it's more gets the credit here, but big swings and like big risks being taken, and it's like ended up being really balanced. So.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
well, let's dive into it, and we can go through each specific. By the way, I still love this image, this giant image of buff, and there's just like 30 things.
It's hilarious. I don't think we'll ever see another thing that's like just all buffs.
I mean, you're probably right.
We'll see. And then
right.
poor syndicates.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that.
Syndicate Morello. Wah, wah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about this. There was the dev drop, Dragonlands, which we'll be talking about a whole bunch next week. This is being filmed on Friday. So, what, 3-4 more days, give or take, till PBE? So, woo.
Oh, wow.
I know.
It's coming. It's coming.
Ruined Pengu Bundle. If you haven't picked that up, it's definitely worth the 650 RP. I think you're crazy not to, but that's your call. All right. Chibi sale. If you want the chibis, great. Okay. Dragon Egg. So this is interesting because when we were talking about what to do for the for fun patch, we knew we couldn't do something augment related because, augments were sticking around. We couldn't go crazy with augments. We were kind of getting like okay for ideas. I had the really, frankly, basic idea of just giving everyone a tome at the start of the game, just to like open up the trait webs a bit. But when brainstorming, the designers came up with like, let's tease the next set and do the Dragon Egg thing. And we were able to kind of combine those into one idea that I think worked pretty well. Now, I will say, overall, I think this was fun for like an event or a for fun patch, but it would not be good for the game long term. What was interesting was the divide. There was like a group of people who hated the small eggs and a group of people who hated the big eggs. It was very fascinating, that divide.
Yeah. Oh, and before we jump into like the specifics, just like for the brainstorming process for like creating these eggs, it's kind of like how a lot of design works. Kind of like ideas come from here, and that's kind of like the beauty of it. It meshes together into this one like final product. It's rarely ever one person going, yeah, I'm gonna create the whole thing from beginning to end. There's usually a lot of input from everywhere, and it becomes this like, everyone has a different perspective, and it turns out to be something really great. So yeah, that's how the eggs turned out.
Yeah. But as far as specifics go, like I said, the small eggs ended up being really warping because you could get like almost guaranteed early Merc 2-1 was a common tactic. You could get early Innovator, which would spike the bears much quicker, into the dragons much quicker. So I personally admittedly didn't like the early eggs, which is funny because, again, if I look back to that original proposal where I'm like, give everyone a tome, I think that would have made the game holistically worse. But there were people who liked that, and then there were those same people didn't like the like 22-28 turn eggs because it's like minus a bench slot, way too swingy at the end game. It's like you think you're doing good and then you get a bad radiant drop and it goes pretty terribly. So it's funny because overall I think the one egg that was like perfect was the one that hatched at 3-7. It's like right around the time to give it to you, didn't bloat things too much. If gun to my head we were ever like keep the egg around, I'd only do that one.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I really like the early direction, even though it's like can be really swingy. But I think a lot of players like to like have a direction to play towards really early on. That's also why I think like having an early item is really beneficial in some ways. And so like personally, I really think that's good. But I guess like long-term game health, avoiding the very swingy traits, especially if we don't have any in future sets, or if we have any in future sets. I mean, having it at 3-7 is like the healthiest version.
So overall, I would call it a success in the sense that it was a variety for fun thing, not good for the game permanently, but definitely fun in the moment. And it taught us a few things for the future. So,
yep.
Cool. Augment combinations. You know, it's funny. I think this was overall fine. I think most players barely even notice it. The one thing I'll call out is that reintroducing gold, silver, silver was worth it just for the clip somebody sent me of having Alistar 3, getting Recombobulator at 4/6, and then turning into a Galio 3.
Oh, that's the best.
That clip alone made this change worth it.
Yes, having Recombobulator more available on 4/6, that's just so hype. You can hit. It's so fun.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. All right. Large changes. Electric charge, fine. It barely made a dent. Metabolic only being available on 1/4. Long time coming change we should have made ages ago.
Yep.
So cool. All right. Assassin 6 buff. Nailed it. Made Assassin 6 actually kind of fun. Secretly a tiny bit OP, but like Assassin comps were never really doing great vertically. So like, cool. They got their time in the limelight. Love it.
Agreed.
Challenger didn't seem to cause any harm, so seems fine.
Yeah, not with the Warwick nerf, but yes, agree.
Chemtech. This one actually, I saw some people playing Chemtech 7 and 9. It finally seems like Chemtech 7 and 9 were like almost good, so fine. Colossus 3. I think this was great. This was like another great for fun change. I'm glad Colossus 3 wasn't there all set trying to balance it. I think it's fun occasionally. I think it actually ended up being a little underpowered, but only a little. Yeah. And I think it was safer to, like, I was really worried after my PBE games with how much Galio was doing, but thankfully that didn't end up being the problem. So overall seemed okay.
Yeah, I mean, weak because it's also like really hard to play. So like giving a little bit more of a reward, I think would be good. But yeah, fun though. It's like changes the board shape so much.
Yep. Debonair. This is one that I think you could look at and be like, nope, this one actually was a mistake. I think Debonair, in conjunction with all the changes it got, and we'll talk about Draven a little later, I think Debonair ended up being the one thing that ended up being a little too strong, which was funny because most of the complaints were not at Debonair. I don't think a bunch of people, at least from what I saw, there were definitely a few who did, very few who did, but a bunch of people didn't realize how strong 5 and 7 Debonair was this patch.
Yeah, I think like this plus the 2 carries getting buffs, one of the carries getting like big buffed, it just went too far.
Well, I think it was also a bit of the meta, right? Where it's like enchanters were a good sort of stable meta comp early, and then what tore through those? A very strong Draven with Debonair with a lot of health to cut through. I think it was like the right meta for Draven and Debonair, which also helped. But again, when we look at the data, I think this is the one thing I'm just like, because I called it kind of balanced, but Debonair and Draven ended up a little too strong.
Yep.
Enchanter. So this one's funny because I look at these changes and I'm like, these seem fine. These actually don't seem that problematic. And yes, I know you could say in conjunction with Orianna and whatever. These actually are fine. What was funny, and this is the thing we didn't predict, and I even joked about this on our Slack channel, I'm like, if anyone had on their bingo card that Redemption Lulu was going to be the thing that we'd have to hotfix, please take my job because you're smarter than I am. I don't think anyone predicted after looking at these changes that, yes, Redemption Lulu was going to break the meta. But once we fixed that, meta, like, it was actually fine. Enchanter wasn't that insane. So I think the magic resist part is fine. I think you could, because again, it's also only Enchanter 5 that we really buffed. If anything, you could call the Enchanter buff from last patch. Actually, I guess if there's one thing, and we'll talk about it later, is maybe the Senna buff on top of this might have been incorrect.
Or Orianna. But like, I think like just this buff alone probably would have been fine. But like, if we didn't do this buff, I don't think the Enchanter Redemption Lulu thing would have been broken. And just kind of how players react to our patch notes. It's like they see something, they're like, let's experiment with it. Oh, this would be good.
Right.
And then they find out it's like so broken.
Right.
And
it's not that this change made it broken. It's that this change encouraged people to find it. And it turns out it had probably been broken for about 3 patches.
So overall message here is there might be something secretly OP. It's just not, we haven't buffed it. Try it out. If you find it, you'll be like heavily rewarded until the rest of the meta catches up. So
Enforcer. This is another one like the Colossus 3 that I think was fine. It was fun. And also the payoff wasn't quite worth it. I think we should have gone a little harder here.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun. It's a different shape for the comp, but just like not enough of a payoff to play these units.
Hextech, same thing. I think honestly went a little light here. Hextech vertical is one of those comps that's not being played right now. I think it's kind of a
I
miss.
think by itself it would have been good, but because we also like buffed 40 other things, kind of like brought everything else up with it. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Mercenary nerf and Mercenary 7 buff. I actually think these landed pretty well. I think for the levers we had and the time we had, nailed it. Like Merc 7 became a bit more playable. Merc 7 is still the biggest high roll, but overall I think these were positive.
Yeah, and even after the nerf, I mean, like everyone's still playing Merc and everyone's still having fun with it. So call it a win.
Bio-leeching. This is another one that actually turned out really well. I think I saw some pretty excited 7 mutant Omnivamp comps, and people were figuring out some Omnivamp Alistar stuff, and like this was another good change.
Interesting.
Yeah. Socialite 1 buff. I think this is one that I would call like it ended up being successful. I question if it was necessary, but I think it was good, and like data shows it was good. I just look back on it and I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I just remember the socialite data being like not great, so like we had to do something, and like this kind of helps, and people really like playing socialite carry, so I think it was a good change.
Yep. Syndicate, we did that revert. Honestly, fine. I think syndicates are where they should be right now. We're still seeing Ash reroll be good. Ari's a little underperforming, but again, that's more kind of like the prevalence of enchanters on this particular meta. So I don't know. Seemed okay.
I think given like our constraints, I think this is like a great change. I think if we had more time, which we obviously didn't, but if we had like a lot of time to go through and like a bunch of sims for this patch, like it'd be something like nerf Ash, kind of keep Syndicate where it is. But this was like the simplest change that got us to where we needed to hit, basically, which was good.
6 Yordle. This was a fine change that didn't move the needle at all. I give up. I'm taking one last big swing next patch for the hell of it. I couldn't make 6 Yordle be a thing in the like. I could play it, but like it was just too hard or wasn't good enough at high elo. I give up. I give up.
Yeah, it's kind of going to be continuing to be like a thing where it's great in the middle elos and not as great in the upper elos. So
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Caitlyn. Okay, this is one of the ones I think. The AD nerf was, or the AD buff was probably unnecessary. I think the damage one was fine. I think the AD nerf or AD buff was unnecessary. I think you could call this one a mistake.
Are we seeing Caitlyn 3s?
No, that's why the damage one. But it's more that Caitlyn in the early game is just like the best early game. We saw it a lot at the Mortdog Madness tournament also. It's just like you get an early Caitlyn too. It's probably one of, if not the best starts in the game right now.
Yeah, just like a super high DPS, basically, and guarantees a unit kill. So, yeah.
Camille change was fine. Probably could have gone harder, to be honest.
Yep.
Alawi change was actually fine. I saw a few people figure out how to make this fun. It's still Alawi. She still falls off by like stage 5, but like she was a little more fun.
Yeah, you still feed it to Tom Kench, but still fun while it lasts.
Yep. Jarvan, same thing. Honestly, Poppy, same thing. Like Jarvan and Poppy, same thing. It's like when you hit them, they were more fun. They were positive. They didn't warp the meta. That's exactly what we were going for. We take those.
Yep. Poppy's super hype. Yep. I love Poppy.
Twitch change. Twitch is. I think Twitch is going to be the champion I look back at as like one of the biggest failures of this set, because no matter what we did, it was like 1 star and 2 star were just like garbage all set. And then, like, you hit 3 star, and it's all of a sudden like, oh, and now he's just anti-fun. It's just like, I jump in the backline and snipe your entire backline and delete them all, and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't know. Like, this change was fine, but it didn't solve the problem. Twitch 1 and 2 are still garbage. You still never want to play them. So it didn't solve anything.
Yeah, Twitch 1 is just so weak. I think one of the things, it's like one of the things that's like interesting to me, and I think I want to look back on and like analyze a little bit more later, is like didn't feel like this in set 6 with Twitch. Felt like a good item carrier, and then in set 7 it was like, or set 6.5 it was like Twitch needs to be the carry or don't play kind of thing. And something's wrong there.
Sejuani, I think we could have gone harder. I think reroll Sejuani just still wasn't that exciting. I think we could have gone harder. Time flies. I think it's better, although it's funny, and because like we had to do the stun nerf, and I think the stun nerf actually had a bigger impact. And so this still didn't really end up being as exciting as I was hoping for Robin's sake. So to be honest, I kind of wish I'd only done like 1.5, 1.752.
Yeah, like a smaller nerf, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at this one as a failure in the sense like I really wanted Zillion Carry to be there in the for fun patch, and it just wasn't quite there.
Yeah, I mean he's still there in the way that he was there.
Yeah. Cho'Gath, fine. I think the 20% growth one was actually just a hilarious positive change. I'm glad we could sneak that one in, so I think that worked well. Gangplank. So I'm going to pick on you a little bit on this one here because I put this change in and you were like, you're buffing Gangplank, you're out of your mind. And from what we can tell, one of the two things that were grossly underpowered this patch was Twin Shot. And so Gangplank 3 is bad, and like I think we could have gone harder.
I actually think I've seen some really good 3-star Gangplanks pop off around Masters. So I mean, like,
come on. The data shows. And like, it was funny, the Mortdog Madness tournament, there were 2 champions that didn't make it in the top 4, Corki and Gangplank, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, I can't really argue with that, but it's like, I've seen this work, and I know this works, and it's like really good when it works out properly. It just, I can see that it's probably just extremely niche in that, like, you need a specific case to make it work. So, yeah.
We'll get there. Or we won't. Or just move on to the next set. Leona, I think this change was good. And spoilers, I think the research that this got us here was very valuable to what we could apply in Dragonlands. So I don't think this Leona change did what we like. It didn't help Leona. We knew it wasn't going to. We even called it out, right? We're like, she's still going to be a super tank that you skip and kill her backline. You know, that's what happened. So nailed it, but like overall, we did what we could here.
And that lesson also was something that we use in we are going to use in future sets and for set 7. So
true.
Yeah.
Senna, I think, like I said, I feel like this is another one you could look at and go, maybe not this one. Maybe the mana change was unnecessary here. It wasn't even that big a buff, but it was on top of everything else, on top of the Orianna, on top of the Enchanter. I think this one was a mistake.
I kind of like the mana change. I think if anything, it's like maybe didn't need the health change, but agree. Yeah. Just a lot of different levers of Enchanters got buffed this patch.
Tryndamere ended up fine. I don't know, like Tryndamere 3 is not an S tier, but like it's playable, it works. Very good top 4 comp. So falls off a little in the end game, but yeah. Zach could have gone harder. I think this was a safe change. It worked out fine. It fit what it was supposed to do this patch. It buffed Zach a little.
Yep, agree.
Ari, I think Ari's another one we could have gone harder. Again, I don't know if Ari's just a victim of the Enchanter stuff or what. We talked about how, actually I haven't mentioned it yet, but the other, it was Twin Shot and it was Arcanists. Those were kind of the 2 really underperforming ones. And so like we saw Ari do okay, but she was never like a premier carry this patch.
Yeah, one of the things where like I pointed to the Ashe, it's like I wish we just nerfed Ashe and not got Ashe to like a good spot and basically got Ari to a better spot using the Syndicate, maintaining the Syndicate buffs. But I think, I mean, she's playable, so.
Yep. Okay, Alistar, Mad Cow back. This was a success. I saw people playing Mad Cow for fun. It's not an S tier comp. This is great.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, Draven. Let's talk about Draven. Can I just officially beg that we never reprint this champion again? There are so many bugs with this champion. We found about the VIP bug this week, which is disgusting, where VIP Draven is only getting 44% armor ignore, not 50%. We know about the axe dropping bug that Leduc helped us find. And then combine all that, and it just like, he never quite was exciting. Now, this one patch, we gave him 15 AD to swing hard. And the truth is, that was too much by about 5. He's too strong. We saw it at Mortdog Madness. People finally started figuring out. Data-wise, he's the number 1 4-cost carry by a pretty good margin. So it was definitely a little high here. I think 85 would have been the right answer. Yep. Well, I just want to say, can we never reprint this champion again, please? That old script that you guys have to work in. Oh, God.
Okay, people joke about Riot spaghetti code, but like, there's not actually that much spaghetti code, but Draven? Oh, I would agree.
Set 1 reprints, like set 1 and 2. We were talking about this actually 2 days ago, Witty and I. It was like set 2 reprints when you pull up that old code and that old stuff, it's why Kha'Zix moves in the stupid way he does. It's why these Draven issues come up. We just need to stop reprinting set 1 and 2 champions.
Yeah, and especially with like Kha'Zix is a little bit easier to like rework, but Draven is so complex in addition to being like old scripts and
which it's
old
funny
habits.
you say complex, but like his output is so basic.
Yeah, and he needs like 40 different files to run. It's like it's mind blowing.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's Draven. Okay, Orianna. Let's talk about this one. So this buff was massive, and I know before going into it, like patch rundown, you and I were talking about this, and it was like, what are we doing? Is Mort out of his mind? You know, I swang 5 levers, swang them all hard.
Yep.
The answer is I overshot it, but not by much, actually.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit, and it was like, I mean, Orianna's strong, but she's not like the risk that I expected. The like, oh my god, she's OP kind of strong, and so hey, not that bad.
I mean, for how hard I swung, like again, it's like you did a putt from like 50 yards away, and you overshot it by like 2 yards. Like, I missed, but like, come on, that was a good putt, you know?
And I think part of the reason is that like everything got buffed, so like this buff was not actually as huge as it was, and like Orianna as a carry was actually just that bad, and so now it's like Orianna's carry is pretty good. It's like kind of OP, but not really.
We're bringing her back down a tiny bit next patch, mostly focused around Orianna 1, not so much Orianna 2. But like again, I think for as big a putt this was, I think I was pretty damn close.
Yeah, I gotta give it to you. I was scared out of my mind for this one, but it turned out okay. So
All right, Vi, this one seems fine. Vi's a little better, still not amazing. So Silco, another safe one. I think this one worked out fine. I don't think it changed much. Maybe could have gone even a little harder on the explosion damage.
Yeah, I seemed good. I'm really gonna be sad seeing Silco go though.
Yep. Okay, Morello. So obviously this made Morello pretty much a garbage item. The crazy thing was we still saw it built a lot. Its play rate is still really good. I think part of that is people habit. You know, I think Renata was the biggest victim here. Renata got hit pretty hard because of this.
Yep.
That's the one thing I'll call this a miss because I didn't buff Renata to make up for it. That's probably the biggest miss. Other than that, though, this did exactly what we needed it to. It got us the information we needed because we know we can't leave it as is for Dragonlands, and we knew what we needed to do to the item for Dragonlands now. So I think that part of it was a success. The failure was not buffing Renata.
Renata died so that we could learn.
Yep.
Very sad. Yep.
All right. Small changes. Cybernetic. Good changes. Glowing Golden Gifts. Good changes. Thieving Rascals. Good change, but I think that augment was still sort of like fundamentally flawed with its randomness, and I still get even after this patch, I still get stories of people going, I only got 3 items in all the stages. I hate this augment.
Yeah, I think this teaches us a good lesson about how we should rein in like the worst case scenarios, basically, I guess even the best case.
I knew that lesson. We knew this. This should not have been a new lesson. Should not have been a new lesson.
Well, it felt like these were enough safeguards, or this was enough of a safeguard. Apparently not. So, good lesson.
Yeah, I will say, I know you're working on augments for the next set, and I know there are a few augments very different, but in that same sort of vein. And we even talked about like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? Let's not allow that, please. So.
Yeah, we really want to avoid players feeling that bad about taking an augment.
Yep.
It's no fun.
All right. 6 Clockwork nerf was good. To be honest, I think Orianna Jhin might have been a little out of control if I didn't do this, so sweet.
Yep, agree.
4 Scholar ended up pretty safe. Again, I think this is one example where we didn't buff 4 Scholar earlier, and I think we were right to be afraid. But with everything else buffed, it was totally fine this time.
Yeah. I mean, it was still scary on paper, but like, because we saw what it could do when we tested it at 15, but yes.
Right, but we tested it at 15 with everything else not buffed.
Yep,
so,
yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Innovator. This is one I feel bad about because we knew it was coming. We knew Innovator was going to be a storm. We should have hit Innovator Bear, and we could have hit the Dragon a little harder. It's not that Innovator was like the best comp this meta, but it was the easiest to play, especially any game you had a low egg, like a 3 or an 8 egg. So I think that was a bit of a miss.
Yeah, and I think also just like players in general have seen so much Innovator this set that like seeing Innovator more easily accessed in a whole patch is like, we should have just done something about that.
Yep. Singed, fine. Could have gone harder. Rek'Sai, fine. Could have gone, Rek'Sai's fine. Warwick nerfs, glad I did it. Honestly, I still saw some Warwicks, but he's low tier, and I didn't want another Warwick meta, so thank God. Echo 3 buff, fine.
I don't think it did anything.
Malzahar 3 buff, I think this one was fine and could have been successful. Again, another victim of everyone playing enchanters every game. I think was a big miss here. So
yeah.
Aurelia, fine. Honestly, could have buffed a little more, just a tiny bit more. Aurelia didn't quite end up the A tier she could have been. She's more like B, low C tier, but at least she's playable.
Yeah. Could have gone harder.
Yep. Okay, another one I got to pick on you for. Sivir. I know this one on paper you were like, oh god, I'm worried Sivir's going to be terrible.
Yep.
Turns out Sivir was just fine.
I mean, she's not great.
What? She was doing great in the Mortdog madness. Like players were playing her and they were used to it and she was doing good.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah. Okay. I'm glad though. I'm glad. To be fair, I mean, to be like, I'm not trying to be right that Sivir 1 was terrible. So like, I'm glad this ended up good.
I think the thing that saved it was that Sivir 2, it was barely a nerf, right? Like Sivir 1 was bad, but like that's the point, right? And then you upgrade her and then she's good. So
yeah, I mean, I kind of agreed with your problem statement because I mean, I was worried Sivir 1's not going to be a unit, and that it was kind of like Sivir 1 kind of has to be like a lot weaker because of her traits. It's like, okay, yeah.
All right. Jason Victor change wildly ruined the meta. Shouldn't have done it. Oh well.
Yep.
Kai'Sa nerf was correct. I think this actually worked out really well. Kai'Sa's still a great endgame, just a tiny bit weaker. Great.
Yep.
Veigar change didn't do much. Who sees Veigar anyway? And then Zeri buff was actually fine. Again, this is one where you could argue that Zeri on top of Draven on top of Debonair may be incorrect. But I think, again, if I were pulling back on anything, it'd be Draven, not Zeri. I think Zeri is actually maybe even debatably a little weak outside of Debonair.
I mean, it's a Zeri 1 buff, and we were like looking at the patch, and Zeri 1 desperately needed a buff. So
yep. Yeah. Other than that, double up stuff, which was fine. Ashe bug fix, which is fine. And then we ended up having to hotfix the redemption thing. But that was actually kind of good because we also had to hotfix the stupid camera bug that was there. So, yeah.
I can't believe we had to hotfix Redemption Lulu. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, not hilarious, but also the heck?
It was ruining, especially on Fight for the Golden Spatula. That's like in NA, it wasn't quite as bad, or EU, but Fight for the Golden Spatula, it was game ruining.
Yeah. So. I mean, if we left it for the weekend, they would all regions would eventually pick up on it, and then it gets so bad. So,
which is crazy because that game's doing so well right now. So,
yeah.
All right. So with that, Gizmos and Gadgets is wrapped up. I will say, for as rough as some of these patches have been, it was nice to go out on a bit of a high note. And there's always going to be the haters. I definitely, when I was like, I tweeted out, this is balanced, I definitely got the people like, what? That you're insane. This is the worst patch ever. And it's like, well, no, it's not. I'm sorry your LP went down, but no, it's not. So.
There will always be people who like just do better on certain patches and they get mad because they think it's related to balance.
Yeah. But no, sometimes. Overall, not like I said, few mistakes here and there, but for as crazy a patch as it was, it could have been a lot worse.
Yes, definitely. I can't believe this patch actually landed like all these wild swings, and it landed like, if you just look at the data, it's just like it is pretty balanced. And so
the 5 costs have never been this balanced. Like 5 costs especially look great. Yep. The one thing I'll say though, before we go, is that someone out there is going to be like, see, this proves you should only buff champions and not nerf champions. And I'm going to tell you right now, no. That is not what this proves. That is not true. It only worked because of where we got to with certain other things. No, that is not the lesson to take away here.
Yeah, just real quick, just like if we buffed everything off the roof, through the roof every single time, combats would end and you don't even know what happened. Yeah. And it's like, things would just explode and you'd be like, what the heck? What happened to the game?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that is why we don't do that.
Yep. All right. Well, let's end it there. That's it for the patch postmortems. Again, keep telling us if you like these or not. We'll keep doing them as long as you do. When you get bored of them, we'll save our Friday evenings. But otherwise, we'll keep doing them. This is the last patch postmortem. Our next one will be patch, I believe it's 12.12 postmortem. So we've got about 6 weeks before we do another one of these. So, yeah.
Dang, that's a long time.
I know. By then, we'll be already done with set 9. No, I'm just kidding.
Dang, that seems so far away. But yeah. Dang,
it'll fly fast. So.
Yep. But I'm excited for everyone to see Dragonlance. Yeah. It's PvE soon. A lot of info coming your guys' way. So.
Yep. All right. That's gonna do it from us. Until next time, take it easy.